Welcome to Open Tables. With your hosts, Cynthia Sue Larson.
That it's okay for everybody to change. It's okay to let things go. And that's really powerful.
Christopher Anatra.
The universe is based on commerce. You know me as the quantum businessman.
Jerry Hicks.
I feel like I've woken up in a parallel dimension where everybody's exactly the same. They look the same memories generally speaking, but they're different.
Shane Robinson.
Nobody has all the answers, so everybody's welcome to share their ideas, and it really expands our consciousness when we do that.
And Kimberly Lynn Hansen.
Well, get your hearts up.
Open Tables. Unique perspectives for a new view of reality. Open Tables. Unique perspectives for a new view of reality.
Did anyone hear the sound on the intro?
I think we had a timeline change during the intro.
Did anyone hear the sound on the intro? I did not hear it.
I did.
You heard it?
Does somebody have their, Carla, do you have it playing on a different screen? Does anyone else have it playing on a different screen?
I did. No.
Does somebody have their, Carla, do you have it playing on a different screen? Does anyone else have it playing on a different screen?
I did.
No.
Oh, that's better.
Oh, maybe I did. Oops.
That's all right. That's okay.
It's better now.
Okay, but you guys heard the sound on the intro? Or if this is an interesting episode today already. Okay, let's go forward. So welcome everyone who's here today. Love to see you guys. And this is our 4th episode of the Open Tables series. And we're in season 1 of IMEC Open Tables. So obviously this topic is the Mandela Effect in Brazil. We'll be getting to that today. But first, I think we've got the next slide. We'd like to go through just our usual opening. Next slide. Thank you. So we have a disclaimer. The content that you are about to watch is basically meant for thought and consideration. So that means we need to be respectful of each other and all of the opinions being shared. That would include the chat stream, of course. This is a safe space to express your thoughts, your ideas, and your information. Please note that there is no copyright infringement. It's intended with respect to all of the items included in the short excerpts that we include in the material. And those are in accordance with basically the fair use consideration, and that's the Copyright Act, fair use. So you can see that on this slide. Our next slide, please. Today's agenda will be introducing our special guest today, who is Carla, and she is our guest from Brazil. And this is our episode. Let's see. I think the sponsors will be the next thing that we'll go through. We've done that in the past, so you guys are used to that. We'll have updates from myself and Jerry and Chris, and we'll talk about Shane a little bit. We'll talk about the blood moon. This is item number 4, the lunar eclipse, all of what's going on with the comet and associated events. Our 5th topic will be getting into the meat of the matter today. That's the Mandela Effects from Brazil. And last but not least, we'd love your input for questions and answers and conversation in our live Q&A. So, yes, let's start with our sponsor number 1. And Chris, maybe you could share with us what's going on here.
Yeah, this one was kind of like, I thought when I first saw this, and I think Carla, you're the one that actually alerted me to this, and I watched some videos about it. I thought it was fake. I didn't think these golden snub-nosed monkeys were actually real. So we're introducing them as our sponsor number 1. They're a new golden animal on the timeline. They live in the mountain forests of China. And in China, they're known as the golden hair monkey. Just really fascinating. They can withstand the coldest temperature of any primate, and they are considered endangered. So am I the only one that this is new for?
No, it's new for me too. Yeah, me too. It's definitely new. And we were talking about golden animals, so you'd think we would have seen this one.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so it seems like it's new even for us in this year, new to us anyway. The interesting thing about the Mandela effect, for those who are just new to it, and some people are constantly surprised, had one I communicated with this week. This might be new to us, and it might be like, hey, I live in China, I've always seen these, and that's part of the Mandela effect too. So it doesn't mean that the Mandela effect is not happening. In fact, that's very much a piece and part of it.
Exactly. And Carla, how did you find out about this?
Actually, it was a friend. He sent me this video and he was freaking out, saying, because he's into Mandela effect also, he made videos here in Brazil about it. And then he said, I've never seen this. Did you? To me, it's a huge Mandela effect. And I said, no, I've never seen this also, this monkey. And then I sent to Chris because, and also because he's a golden animal. And it was so perfect for this time now. And I've never seen it. Trust me, never. It's the first time. And looks fake. Looks like it's a teddy bear or something. And
that's what Shane said. He said it looks like Teddy Ruxpin. I don't know if you have that in Brazil.
This kind, no. Just we have a golden small one called Mico Leão, but
no, a toy. There's a toy, Teddy Ruxpin.
A toy. No. No.
Yeah, so this sponsor made the number one. This is our number one sponsor on the list. So let's see what's next.
Wow. So next up is our golden drop frog. And again, another golden animal. And this is from Brazil, is that right?
Yes. Sorry.
Oh, well, it would have made it previously when we were reviewing golden animals, but it's just another indicator we're on this golden timeline that we've spoken of. It's so for people that live in Brazil. For you, Carla, is this one that you've seen before?
No, I've never seen this. I don't live close to the jungle, but I've never seen. And for Brazil, even it's new. It's a new species. And they have similar ones, but that golden one and so tiny is the first time for Brazilians also. They just found out, and I've never seen it also.
It's funny too, it says that they have a type of poison. I'm thinking, somebody has tried to lick one of these frogs at some point for a psychedelic experience. I should probably look into that, but yeah, they have some type of a poison, and they have a very unique singing tone. So when you hear them in the forest, you can set them apart from other types of frogs and toads. So again, another golden animal number 2.
And with the voice, that's really interesting that it's coming to people's attentions right now, because why didn't we hear it before? If it sings, you'd think that people would have been noticing. So I think that's really interesting.
Yeah, and what are they singing? Because a lot of times you can consider the sounds that animals make a kind of light language. So what actually are they putting out into the area that's around them? So it'd be interesting to read into that and figure out what's going on with that as well. Like the cicadas, a lot of people have been hearing about the cicadas that have been emerging in the United States, and they have a very unique type of singing and tone that they put out. So you wonder what kind of frequency that is, because everything in the universe is energy, frequency, and vibration. So it's all very interesting.
Love it.
Yeah.
Thanks for sharing those. Okay, what's our next animal? Let's take a look and see. Sponsor number 3. Okay, I don't know how to pronounce this, but I'll give it a shot. What is this? Guara Branco? Is that right?
Guara Branco.
Okay. I just want to say, by the way, for everybody in the chat, if you guys are inspired to do super chat, we would love that. We are a nonprofit. I'm just going to put that out there. We're a 501c3 nonprofit organization. That's International Mandela Effect Conference, and it really makes a difference to cover all the costs and expenses putting this together each month. So thank you, and we'll put the little shout out when they come in. So just to keep the enthusiasm and excitement going. Okay, back to the sponsor number 3. Yeah, thank you for pronouncing that. I'll try it again. Guara Branco. And what's new about this? I think this is doubly amazing, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, because actually the animal itself, I've never seen it. And plus, a white one is double Mandela effect for me and for many people also that I was contacting with, because before I sent to Chris, I was looking if it just was not me, like we always do in those Mandela effect cases. But actually, a lot of people that I know, they don't know about it. And there are people that know more about those kind of birds than me, of course. And plus that white color. So I think it's the double Mandela effect in this case here.
Now, what's their native environment, their ecosystem? Where would these birds be found? Just the red ones, we'll start with that. Never mind the leucism one. That's like, it's not the same. We've talked about that too. It's not albinoism, it's leucism. So the eye color retains the pigment, but the rest of the animal is usually white. So where would these be found? Do you know?
I believe it's here called like Mata Atlântica. Because, in Brazil, there's many places of forest, and it's mostly Mata Atlântica. So I believe they're found there. But I'm into animal thing. I know a little bit, and I was always searching for, and I like different types of birds and every kind. I watch a lot of shows, and I've never seen those birds. So
now you're being too modest, Carla, because if I'm not mistaken, you are an animal communicator, right? Is that right?
Yeah, I am. But usually I work with dogs and cats, pets mostly.
Yes.
I'm a veterinarian, but I was always interested into animal world, every kind, since dinosaurs, everything. And I'm a bit nosy. I check a bit, and I've never seen those birds. That freaked me out also.
Well, I think you're qualified being a veterinarian and an animal communicator, so I really appreciate your expertise here. And for me, these birds are completely different. I would think they look a little bit like, can we see the picture again? They remind me a little bit of, I don't know what, maybe a stork or
Like a flamingo.
That's what I was going to say. And when you think flamingo, you think, right, pink. But
Pink.
But these are red. So you would have thought like people would like, well, I've got the red flamingos in my yard, but they're not flamingos. They're Guara Branco, like I'm cool. And I've never heard about that. Never seen these. They look almost like a storybook Dr. Seuss character or something, They got that kind of unusual curvature of the beak going on. So fascinating. Is there anything else you want to mention about these, Chris, that you put so much research together here?
Yeah, the only thing I mention is that one of the things that I found is almost like puzzle pieces or putting things together as a cipher. Whenever a white animal appears when a white is not common, I classify them, this is just for myself speaking, I classify them as what's called a super protector. So I'm sure that this bird is a super protector of some part of Brazil, or has like a higher spirit or a higher self or something like that does that. So it's always really special when there's a white animal, especially with the leucism that appears. It's not albino. It usually means something special. So.
And that is acknowledged by a lot of native traditions as well. They're called spirit animals, like spirit elk, spirit deer, spirit bears. So I think there's a long tradition for this. You're not the only one. You're not out there on a limb by yourself.
Like the white buffalo, right? Yeah.
Yeah, the white buffalo, right?
Exactly.
So this is another good sign in these interesting times, which is I love to see these. I'm so glad that we're able to share them.
I think it's just also it's the way of communication, because they're showing through the white animals, like Chris says, that is a kind of protector, spiritually speaking. And it's a kind of communication saying, we are here, we are protecting, look at us, because they call attention. It's a way of communication, because we just think about communication talking, but no, there's images, appearance of. This is a kind of communication, Earth talking to us, spiritual, the spirit of Earth.
Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you. Let's go to the next one if we've got another. Okay. I love this one. Isn't that cute? I know. And I guess it's pronounced vinegar dog, vinegar, not vinegar, right? Or is it vinegar?
Well, actually, in Portuguese, it's cão vinagre, cachorro vinagre, but it's vinegar dog.
Such a funny name, and it looks just like it didn't. Doesn't it look like it just stepped out of a mud puddle or something?
It does.
There's been a light rain; it got slightly clean, but it's like the pig pen of dogs. But it's not really a dog, is it?
Well, they were classified as a dog, canine kind. Wild dog that comes also from kind of here in Brazil. We have a kind of wolf and coyotes, but Brazilians, there's different names. They're in that lineage, and they're tiny. They're cute. They're super cute. They walk together like I forgot the name, but they are all together. And they're super cute. And in my timeline, they were extinct, but they are not. They are endangered.
Now let's focus on that. This is big, big. We love it when this happens. Let's talk about that. So tell us what you remember about them previously being extinct. How did you hear about it? All that.
I remember reading about them and knowing that they were extincted. Like I forgot now, the tiger one that is a similar one that has stripes. I don't know, it's from the USA. It doesn't matter. Was in a place where I could see animals that were extinct by the human hunt and everything. And then I just like checking about, and I thought, hold on, they're endangered species. How come? For me, so for some people, they told me that. Yeah,
well, in a book or at a museum? Did you go to a museum and
museum? Book. Okay. I didn't see it. I just like in books, hear about the Brazilian animals and stuff, and I was like, hold on. To me, they were extincted, And then many people told me, they are not. They are still here, but I swear, for me, they were extinct. I remember reading in books that.
Since you were a little girl or more recently?
When I was a teenager more. When I started knowing more about things. Because I thought that it was super cute and I was always crazy for dogs kind of animals. And then it's not. And I'm happy, but they're endangered species right now. So it was really interesting to me.
But we have a working theory here that I love that you had that reaction when you saw it's extinct, but it's like, I wish it wasn't. That's right there is very powerful, as we often talk about. And Chris, the quantum businessman, of course, gets into that on his channel. So thank you for.
Yeah, I was going to say too, I think, Carla, you were referring to the Tasmanian tiger that had those stripes.
Yes.
From Tasmania, because for a long time it was always taught that they were extinct. And then all of a sudden, they're back on the timeline again, or someone caught images of them. So same type of scenario as that.
Yeah, that's what remind me of, because to me also the Tasmanian tiger was extincted. And then some people say that they've seen it, even though we don't have a picture or something. But I feel, it's weird that I know, but I feel they are here. They are not extinct. They are just hidden, but they are here. They are not gone.
Exactly.
That's what I feel from them. But those, I just was just so happy. Like, okay, I was mistaken. So
great.
Yeah, thank you for playing a part in bringing them back, and hopefully we'll pull them all the way out of extinction. And if people don't know what I'm talking about, check out the Quantum Businessman's channel, because working on some cool projects.
Yeah, we are making some headway too. So yeah.
Okay. Anything else about the Vinegar Dog? I love the way you pronounce it, Carla. So.
Yeah, cachorro vinagre.
Yes.
It's a weird name. I don't know where it comes from. I was
going to ask, is there some reason for that?
Well, there must be, but honestly, I don't remember now. But yeah, there must be a reason. It's weird. Maybe he tastes like. Sorry.
Well,
or smell like.
Well, maybe.
You can use vinegar for cleaning, and it looks like someone cleaned its head, but then it didn't clean the rest of it. So it's like it got partway clean with vinegar, but not very.
And in a way, he's brown, but he has a golden
Yes.
Almost golden color if you pay
On his
attention,
head.
especially on the head. Yeah, yeah.
So cute.
Or maybe it's entirely, but that one's a bit dirty.
That's adorable. Okay, and I love this one coming back from extinction. Now just an endangered animal. So let's keep this beautiful animal in our hearts. So next slide, please. Okay, sponsor number 5. This is amazing, and I'm going to have you say the name of this one, Carla, if you would be so kind, because I'll slaughter it.
Okay, here he's called boto cor-de-rosa. It's a kind of dolphin, but because if it was dolphin, it would be golfinho in Portuguese. But he's a boto, which is a kind of a dolphin. And this one, I know since I'm a child. I've never been close to this one, to one of them, which I wish, because they are in Amazon rivers, and I've never been there. But for many people, I think Chris especially, it's a Mandela Effect animal. But for me, I grew up because there's that animal is surrounded by legends here in Brazil. It's really, really wise animal, and also is endangered. But this one, I knew it. It didn't appear like for me. I knew since in my timeline, he exists since I'm little.
So is there a Mandela effect that you're aware of for some people in Brazil? For me, it's new, but then I don't live in Brazil. So it's like, what? A pink dolphin? I think I would have heard about it.
Here in Brazil, the people I know, it's not, because it's really, really famous. It's like it's one of the famous different exotic animal from Brazil. So since till now, I don't know anyone who told me, okay, I've never seen this. But
yes.
Maybe, of course, there's so many people here in Brazil.
Now there's a legend that's so cool about this.
Yeah, the legend is that in some nights, I think in full moons, the boto becomes a human being, a man, very charming. And he goes out of the water, and usually where he lives in those rivers, around us, those little houses of like, not Indian, but kind of Indian people that lives there. I forgot the name in English, how to say about them, those villages. And they seduce young women, and they make them pregnant. And then they go back to the river as a boto, as a dolphin. And the next day or some days, the woman find out that she's pregnant, but the father is the boto. And that child would grow up with some special powers or something, more or less, kind of. That's more or less the most famous legend here in Brazil about the boto. And some people say that it's just because those mothers who doesn't want to tell who the father is and blame the boto. Okay, I'm pregnant. The boto is the father. It's not my fault. It's just a fear, like Virgin Mary.
Right.
It's a very, very strong and famous. If you talk to people, what I've seen interviews and documentaries about, they really believe, they tell you that is a real story. And it's simple people, villagers, hardworking people, very simple. It's not about getting famous or something. So they really say that they saw the boto transforming himself into human. They really describe those stories. There's many. So I think there's something real about that. It's not just a legend. I think legend comes always from something that was kind of real, like mermaids. I'm a believer, anyway. So that's it. So that's the main legend. And there's others, little ones, but that's the main one. And just the pink one.
That's very cool. We don't have Jerry with us right now, Jerry Darkwolf Hicks, but he would be way into this with the cryptid qualities of it and talking about werewolves, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Because there's a similarity there. And Chris, is there something else that you learned when you were putting this together?
Yeah, actually I've been looking at dolphins a lot, and there were 4 new dolphins that appeared on the timeline. So originally when pink dolphins came up, they didn't have long beaks like that. They looked like a regular dolphin, but they were pink. This definitely looks different from any other pink dolphin I've seen. And there are other dolphins There's one called the Rizzo's dolphin now, which is purple until it becomes an adult. There's something called a common dolphin, which is yellow and black, like a yellow and black dolphin. We should have probably included those on there as well, but there's so many new animals to talk about. There's a striped dolphin that has like stripes on it. There's a spotted dolphin with spots. So definitely in this golden timeline, we've definitely switched into a reality that has many more different varieties of dolphins. So they're all really fascinating, and they probably all deserve their own show at some point.
And thanks for mentioning the nose on this particular dolphin. Carla, does that look different to you at all? Or you're saying it looks all the same, no change for you? Would the beak, the nose look different at all?
Well, comparing to the others, yeah, it looks more rustic to me. Always look at more rustic than the other regular dolphins. By the way, my timeline was like 2 or 3 kinds. And now it's like a bunch, like Chris just said, a bunch of different kind of dolphins. But the boto itself, it was always like that. Since I'm little, since I know the legend, the stories, and seen it, it didn't change. It's always kind of pink. And I don't remember now, but I think they get the male, it's pinker than the female, something like that. And they look like more like prehistoric to me, in my vision. They look like more prehistoric dolphins. If you compare to the dolphins, all rounded, all cute. He's more rustic to me, just, I don't know. But the dolphins that are appearing now that they are pink is the Mandela effect to me.
Right.
Just this one is exception because I grew up here and I heard about and stuff. But the other ones, they're Mandela effect to me. Those colors, those all kind of dolphins, like many never heard about.
Well, thank you for mentioning that. And I think it does matter that you are a veterinarian and focusing on animals all the time. So you've got some special qualifications here.
Always.
Okay, let's take a look at the next slide. Let's see what we got next. Okay, so now that's it for the animal sponsors. We can, of course, talk about them throughout the show. This is our chance to talk a little bit about our updates so far since the last episode. And I'll go first. Cynthia Sue Larson. I've just had a great conversation with a skeptic organization, Merseyside Skeptics. Shout out to the United Kingdom, with a very respectful interviewer, Marsh. And it was an opportunity for me to talk about the Mandela effect in the sense of how would I convince someone who's never experienced it that it's real. And if people are experiencers, that would be the standpoint that we'd coming from, the perspective. On the other flip side, what would it take if you've never experienced this to convince you? Those are the kind of things you can be sure to mention in the chat. So please join in, put those comments, questions, ideas in the chat. We'd love to see it. The other big thing that came out of that excellent conversation, it is a podcast, you can check it out, is the idea that we in the future at IMEC might like to design some experiments to actually prove the Mandela effect. How would we go about doing that? Is it possible? What would that take? And again, we'd love to invite your conversation, your ideas, your thoughts on that. So those are my biggest changes this last month, things to report on. And I guess for Jerry Hicks, we were joking, maybe he has been abducted by a UFO. So obviously there were some unforeseen circumstances. We don't know yet what happened. And then Shane is not with us today due to a death in the family. So please send him and his family love and support and blessings. And then that comes to you, Chris.
Yeah, so so many different things. One of the things is I just posted a video about saving the northern white rhino. And that video is really special because it kind of tells a story about what's happened to the northern white rhino. And then it gives us steps. I give your higher self steps about what it can do to help if it wants to. So people, if you haven't watched that yet, give it a watch. And it's one of those things that I encourage you to share as well. I just finished another sequence of my Symphony of Reality about Napoleon and about the Tartarian Empire. And I broke it down into 2 parts. And I hope to have the first part probably released in a couple of weeks from now, probably not this Friday, but the following Friday. And that's going to be mind-blowing. I reveal a lot of things from the Akashic records, which I call the Internet of the Universe, about Napoleon that people don't understand. And for example, his invasion of Russia and why it failed so miserably. I kind of add to the story that the global narrative doesn't want people to know about. So that'll be really interesting for people. And then one of the things that's on the slide here too, yesterday, there is a local newspaper in Vail, Colorado, that mentioned me. And it mentioned the Mandela Effect. It mentioned the 2019 Mandela Effect Conference. And it mentioned me being on the How To with John Wilson. And it was really interesting because the article, and maybe we could bring up that article on the screen. Yeah, so there's this mural in this little town outside of Vail. It's kind of funny where half the people remember that mural always being there and the other half don't remember it at all. And there's like husbands and wives. The husband says, of course, it's been there all the time. And the wife is like, I've never seen that before in my life. So that's gotten people in the Vail, Colorado area talking about the Mandela effect. And then somehow they dragged me into it, which is okay. I don't mind. But oh yeah, there I am right there with my bottle of Febreze. It used to be Febreze, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, so that was from the How To with John Wilson show. So it's kind of cool. The Mandela effect is starting to get a little bit more traction. I think the How To with John Wilson is starting to, like, people have seen it. And I know people that have seen it that have actually said, you really got me to think about it, because they remember like the sunglasses on the Reason brand guy, or Stouffer stovetop stuffing, those types of things. So yeah, so that's my summary of what's been going on in my life. So just continuing to work on my symphony of realities. And I'm already like thinking ahead. My next one's going to be about Atlantis, about information about the Atlantis and things that people may not know about, and just putting pieces together again from the Akashic records. So really excited about that.
This is so super. I love what you're doing, and I'm glad you're doing that whole series on Tartaria. That reminds me, I did an interview with Andreas Exertus talking about, yeah, and so of course I'm mentioning, it started with, he picked it up where last time I'd spoken with him, he'd been driving in front of a castle in Spain, and it's like he was losing reception or something. It was a little dicey. And right about when he lost reception, a drone hit his car. It was like a drone piloted by gypsies in front of a Spanish castle. So we start with that footage at the beginning of the, it's like wild stuff. Yeah. And then I was talking about time travel, some of my experiences with that. So that fits right into the kind of work you're doing as well. So I just shout out for Andreas Exertus and his YouTube channel, and also all of the excellent work you're doing, Chris. That's a must see for anybody that's interested in the Mandela effect.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Oh my gosh, we got Jerry. You're back.
Jerry, it's been returned from the aliens. How are you?
Finally, it took long enough. I tell you what, those guys are meticulous.
Oh boy.
You're just in time
for your
ladies and gentlemen. You want to give us your report? We're at that this wonderful point where you can say what's been happening, and so go for it, Jerry.
Well, first I would like to say hello to Miss Cynthia, Mr. Christopher, and welcome, Miss Carla. It's a pleasure to have you.
Thank you.
My name is Jerry Hicks, also known as the Dark Wolf. For those that don't know, I do the Dark Wolf's Den radio show every Wednesday and Thursday night. We do paranormal talk radio on the rippingrabbithole.com, as well as the Dark Wolf's Den show YouTube channel. Not a whole lot going on around here besides just work, and a little bit more work, which is why I was a little late today, kind of overslept. My apologies, folks. But we're doing good, doing absolutely wonderful here, and glad to be here and ready to have a good time on this show.
Excellent. You're right on time for an thank you. So we got some comments here, and you can read that out too, Jerry. I was going to say, anybody that wants to chime in with super chat, go for it. Heather will post it here at the bottom, and if you want to say anything, we'll just give some credit. So go for it, Jerry. I was doing the MC. I prefer it when you do the MC.
Well, you were doing a good job. Let me say, Cynthia. I was checking up while I was getting ready to come on. You were doing a great job. Lewis Carroll, $10 super chat. Thank you so very much, Lewis. We very much appreciate that. Absolutely. So nice to hear people talking about these things without starting with, I know this sounds crazy, but thanks for all your hard work. Well, thank you, Lewis, for being here with us and being a part of the community. We very much appreciate it, my friend. And it's nice to be in a community or a company of people that aren't going to call you crazy or say something like that. And you can actually feel at home. Like Chris, you were mentioning the How To with John Wilson. I've had a multitude of people that recognize me from that also. And it's changing people's whole view of things. It really is. What do you guys think?
Absolutely. This piece that just showed up in Vail, Colorado is fabulous. It's one of the best local articles I've seen that covers the topic in a very fair manner. And I was surprised when I was on that Merseyside Skeptic show, because also I felt heard. The kind of challenges were the ones you'd expect, like how would you prove this to someone who thinks like maybe your memory is faulty? So I just love the coverage. I think we're really getting to that point where this is starting to hit a tipping point. Absolutely.
I'd say so. What about you, Chris? What do you think about that?
I think, I'm really happy that although the sequence of events of the how-to show is not quite how they portrayed it, him finding me in the supermarket and all that, but that's okay. I'm really happy about that. It's bringing awareness to people, and people that I've talked to that have seen it. Like, I was talking to somebody a few weeks ago, and he's like, I know the Raisin Bran guy had sunglasses. Like, I know that. So people might not be vocally talking about it, but it's getting them to at least think a little bit and now be more observant. And that's really what it takes. You have to be observant to these things. People just move through life without looking at the details.
Right. And that's what was so cool. Yeah. Go ahead, Jerry.
I was just going to say, I absolutely agree. Go ahead.
And I don't know that we've got an introduction slide for Carla, and I'd love to make sure we do that. Let's do a proper introduction for Carla, because we kind of dove in. But could someone do the honor of introducing Carla? Whoever wants to step in, Chris or yeah.
Yeah, I was going to say, I am really happy that Carla was able to come on the show today. Carla's from São Paulo, Brazil. And, she watched an episode of IMEC. She's watched Quantum Businessman. She knows about Cynthia, etc. So it's really good. I mean, and this is like a historic show for us because you're our first international guest. So the International Mandela Effect Conference is now truly international. And it's really good. Anyone watching too that's from another country, if you would want to be part of the show as well, we'd love to have you on, because it's not just a United States type scenario. It's happening all over the world. And so Carla, tell us what you do for work, and then we know a little bit about you already, and then your just whole experience with the Mandela effect.
Okay. Well, first of all, again, thank you for having me here. It's a pleasure to have that opportunity. I'm a veterinarian. I work with animal communication and regular clinical stuff, veterinarian things anyway. And Mandela Effect started for me 2016, I guess. I think was the boom of Mandela Effect. And many people talking about, and I was like, what the hell is this? What's going on? It sounds crazy at the first time you see things. And then I'm a digger. I'm always searching for new things. And I started looking about it, watching, talking to people, family, and even making games with people hold on, what you remember? I remember making with friends at home. I'm making a game draw the Brazil, the world map here. Draw Brazil. Tell the name of this product as you remember, And then I found out that more and more people were crazy like me, getting to that. And you guys were talking about that this needs to be seen and talked about, but I think the person always start believing when they have one special one that hits in the face, and you say, no way, it can't be like that. Because some things we say, it's my bad memory, I'm crazy, I forgot. you know, but there's always one that hits you in the face and says, man, I am not crazy. I'm sure I give my life that this is not what it's shown now. It's different from what I remember. So then I started having not only one, many Mandela effects. And then I started checking. Your videos, Cynthia, was very helpful. It was amazing to see, yeah, I'm not that crazy. And you helped a lot. You were the first ones that I heard talking about. And then it was just like in USA, a USA kind. But then it became bigger. And I found out, it like here in Brazil, you know, many things happening. And so then I didn't stop looking for. And more or less, that's what happened. It's a real thing that now belongs to my day by day. I pay attention to many things happening. I think slight things changing. It doesn't stop, because it seems for a while that stopped. Those big Mandela Effect famous ones, people has a list, like the most famous one, but it doesn't stop. It keeps changing, you know? So it's really something that it's really happening. People must wake up and pay attention.
I could not have said that better. It is definitely something that is really happening. I think that's kind of something we've all kind of experienced at one point or another. Like, is it me? You mentioned earlier, you started to think, is it my memory? Am I crazy? Am I wrong? But my number one, like without question, was the Berenstain Bears. I know just as sure as I'm breathing right now the way that was spelled. What was the one that slapped you in the face, to use your wording?
Oh, my first one is that mirror, mirror from the Snow White, because also in Portuguese, because the phrase was very similar to the English one, even in Portuguese changed. So I remember going through because I was a Disney fan of all those movies. I grew up loving those. And I went and looked for the Snow White, and it changed. And I was like, no, 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 no. It was mirror, mirror on the wall. Don't do that to me. And then I went to Portuguese, because in Portuguese it's just the same. It says espelho, espelho meu. And then it changed. Now they say magical mirror of mine. And here was just mirror, mirror. It was the same, you know? And in Portuguese changed, and I was freaking out. And I was like, no, I'm a Disney fan. Don't discuss with me. I know what I'm talking about. And then JFK, for example, also was a big one. I even talked to my mother, because she was a great fan of Kennedy, president. And then I was telling Mom, how many people were in this car? And she remembers, she watched all the interviews. She was not there, but she remembers. It's her time. She was crazy for the president and stuff. And she says 4. And then now the car looks like a huge holiday bus with like thousands of people driving. And I'm like, I remember. I studied. I was good in school, history, geography, and then other things. But the one that caught my attention. Oh, and the one of Star Wars. Luke, now it's no, I am your father. And because Luke, there's even shirts with those geek people, those nerd people.
Hey, whoa. We're talking to some geeks.
I am, but I'm also. But, you know, the shirts, come on. So also was a big one. And then it's just slap in your face. Like, no, what am I doing? Am I drunk? Am I crazy? Right. But Snow White was my first one. No way.
Well,
Love it.
I've got one more question, and then I'll turn it over to the rest of these guys here. I'm sure they've got loads of them for you too. Have you noticed any? You mentioned that it Mirror Mirror had also changed wording in Portuguese. Have you noticed any of them that have changed in American but have held on in Portuguese or another language?
Some days ago, when Chris posted a video about what the detective, I forgot, Sherlock Holmes.
Oh, Sherlock Holmes, yeah.
Sherlock Holmes talked to Watson. It changed.
Elementary, my dear Watson.
Yes. in Portuguese, it's the same. Then I went to check. It didn't change yet in Portuguese. But in English, it changed. So that was the one I noticed when Chris talked about in his last video.
Yes.
And I went to check. It said maybe it's like Snow White also changed in Portuguese, but it didn't so far till now.
I love that idea to look at different cultures, different languages, and see what's changing. That's fascinating. And the first book that I had was in another language, was translated for Brazil to Portuguese. That was Aura Advantage. So,
I didn't know that.
Yeah, so it's my one book that's in Portuguese, but I can't read
gonna
it,
get
so
it.
I wouldn't know what's changing. But I've seen my own books change on me, as well as other books. So that's so bizarre when that happens, and you just go looking for something, it's not in there. You know it was there, but it's gone, or there's something different. So I think that's fascinating.
I have a friend who he saw, the war, the game called War, and with the maps,
Right.
it changed. His game changed after those all crazy changes in the world map. He went to check his game and was different. Actually, he talks about that in one of his videos, and it's changed.
Super cool.
It's crazy.
Mention his channel if you know it, so people can look that up. Do you know his YouTube channel?
Okay. To say it's weird because I think I have to type for you guys because it's in Portuguese. The name is the Curious Eric. Is a friend of mine. He speaks in Portuguese, but if I just say, I think he's better than let written so people can check his site.
Okay. Cool. Well, maybe we should move on to we have a lot of material to cover today. A lot. So maybe thank you so much for Carla for all that great background. I'll turn it back over to Jerry to continue. We're going to start here. Now this is our main body of the show. Oh, actually not yet. We haven't even gotten to Brazil yet. We have a lot of stuff.
So the blood moon lunar eclipse is tonight. Is that correct?
I think it was actually this morning.
Yeah, here in California, it was 4 a.m. It was from like 2 a.m. to 6 a.m. with the full. I didn't wake up to go check it, but the middle of the night here in California.
Well, I had a sky full of clouds, so I wouldn't have been able to see it anyway. But Chris and I have been tracking a lot of the solar activities, and we found some interesting correlations between the solar activities and the Mandela effect, and we're still kind of tracking that, see what we can find. And with that said, the super flower blood full moon, which I've never heard of, actually. Total lunar eclipse, May 26, 7 p.m. this morning, or a.m. this morning. Again, I had a cloudy sky, and I wouldn't have been able to see it anyway. A lunar eclipse occurs when the moon moves into the Earth's shadow, only visible west of the Rocky Mountains. Oh, well, I missed the prime occasion. Eclipse lasts for about 14 minutes. So I've never heard of the superflower blood moon. I don't know about you guys.
That's new for me too. I've never heard of that.
Me too.
Yeah, just blood moons in general, I've never heard of. Now they happen every once in a while. I'm like, okay, another blood moon, okay, whatever.
Maybe on a vampire story or horror movies, but I never heard it real.
Well, we had like 6 last year.
It seemed like a lot.
I don't know how many, but yeah.
Is this tied in with? Is it like with werewolves or something? I don't know what's going on. We were talking about these man-dolphin creatures, and I was mentioning you, Jerry, about you'd be into the cryptid side of things, with werewolves.
Well, man-wolf, man-dolphin, But this is very intriguing. What do you guys think about this whole lunar eclipse thing?
I think it's really interesting, and then it all kind of lends to like just a lot of events happening in the sky above us, so to speak. And I think if we go on to the next slide, there's another thing that's very interesting coming up, and this is called the Pons-Winecki comet. It's a Jupiter class comet. They call it Jupiter class because the planet Jupiter influences its orbit. It comes around every 6 years. And every so often when it comes around, there seems to be a lot of interesting activity that happens with it. Its perihelion is going to be tomorrow. That's its closest approach to the sun. And its closest approach to Earth is going to be on June 12th, which is about 16 days from now. And again, it's one of these things too, where people talk about comets and their relationship to the sun. And is it possible that they somehow magnetically connect to the sun and cause solar storms and that type of a thing? And in the next slide, we talk about, I think it's the 1921 solar storm, which is, for me anyway, is a Mandela effect. But I don't know if anyone else wants to add anything about this particular comet.
Just the physics of it. So when it's closest to the sun, it's about to get that slingshot it's getting thrown by the gravitational pull of the sun. So it's going a little faster when it gets closer. It's accelerating away. And then, like Chris said, there could be some connection between this 6-year comet that's mostly it's part of the Jupiter gravitational configuration, but there seems to be something else going on. Next slide, please, Heather. I think the next thing is the big thing. Yeah. Go ahead, Chris, because Chris did some great research on this.
Yes, so in 1921, right around the time when this comet was going by, there was a big geomagnetic storm that lasted for 3 days. And what's interesting is that a lot of people have heard about the Carrington event, which happened in 1859, which was another big geomagnetic storm, which burnt out telegraph offices and that type of thing. To me, this is a Mandela effect, because I've always been looking at these geomagnetic storms when they've been occurring. And there's been like some key points in history when we've had some, like the day the Titanic sank, there was a geomagnetic storm. The Carrington event. This one I never heard of before, the 1921 storm. And it actually made Grand Central Terminal, in my old timeline it was Grand Central Station.
Yes.
Grand Central Terminal caught on fire and shut down the whole railway system. And the northern lights, the aurora borealis, was seen throughout the eastern United States. And I've been reading accounts where it said the northern lights were so bright, like even in places like Colorado, you could read the newspaper. That's how bright it was. So sunspots, sun activity, comets, the aurora borealis, they all seem to have a connection. And I believe there's a further connection that has to do with timelines as well.
So this is strange to me because I've studied, like you, a lot of these events. The Carrington event being the #1 most well-known, and the only major impactful one that I'd ever heard of. I'd never heard of the New York Railroad storm or the Northern Lights being that far into the United States, aside from something like the Carrington. But again, I'd never heard of this at all. And I'm pretty sure Chris has. What about you, Carla? Have you ever heard anything like this?
No, not at all. To me, it's new.
And Cynthia, is this new to you too, or?
This is totally new, every single aspect of it.
Yeah.
It seems like it would have, all of these aspects are quite newsworthy. Like I can't say Grand Central Terminal with a straight face. It's like, that's not right. So Grand Central Station, I'll just say it how I remember it. But no, that I think I would have heard of that. Not to mention the Northern Lights being so bright you could read a paper by them. This is outrageous. So if this is now part of our current timelines, I say plural because I see us moving through timelines all the time. I think we're a lot more facile in it than people tend to acknowledge. But this is very new for me.
For me also.
So,
it's like where I've been.
Go ahead, Carla. Go ahead.
No, I just said it's where I've been, everything's so new to me. Also.
What's crazy to me is I've researched this for years and years and years, not necessarily solar storms specifically, but stuff in relation to all of this. And these big events, they come up on the radar. They don't just kind of quietly pass by. If you have something like this, you got to be, oh, well, that's interesting. You kind of file it back here, But the solar storms have some interesting effects on those of us here on the Earth, it seems like. At least that's been the preliminary data. Can I get a slide change, please? So May 31st and June 1st, 1921, mobs of white residents, many deputized, attacked black city residents and officials. the single worst incident in racial violence in American history. So when you hear this garbage on the news nowadays talking about this is the worst in American history, remember the propaganda is thick, ladies and gentlemen. More than 800 people were admitted to the hospital, as many as 6,000 black residents. But this was at the same time as the solar storm that we just read about, correct?
Yeah, that's what's really interesting about this. So the solar storm was like a week or so before, and then this happened. So to me, they're both Mandela effects. And then one could possibly make the connection, does increased solar activity, does plasma coming from the sun, does the excited electrons that are coming from the sun, can it affect people in such a way where they, I don't know how to say it, but they just go crazy and they do things that they would not normally do. So again, is there a connect? Because to me, they're both Mandela effects, the geomagnetic storm and this. And is there a connection? And if there is a connection, could this almost be a warning to us so that if there is more and more increased solar activity, could it be that people can start to behave in strange ways that they normally wouldn't do? Or it somehow just does something to motivate them thing. And I know that with some solar storms, they used to give like warnings about anxiety. And if you have heart conditions, you know, there's a lot of, you know, whatever particles coming at you, you know, to be aware of that. I don't really see those alerts a lot, but I believe it does affect the human physiology in some way.
That would make a lot of sense to me. I also believe it has a physiological effect on our mental capacity, our stability, things like that. I've actually, again, I can't remember how long ago this was, and I don't have the evidence in front of me now, but I've heard a couple different times of the solar storms possibly being catalyst for just like the full moon, like you were saying, when people do craziness, when things get out of hand, when it seems like everybody's lost their mind, and especially officialdom, that perhaps the solar activities could have a impact on it. Again, this is very, very fringe research in this area.
But one thing we can address here is that this is new for all of us, if I'm correct. This, I have to say that I did hear about this Tulsa massacre a few years ago for the first time. But then when I heard about it, my first thought was, wait a minute, they're talking about it like we've heard of this before. I've never heard of this before. And why didn't I hear about it before? I live in the San Francisco Bay Area, where we, the other one that showed up suddenly similar to this is Juneteenth. About the same time, I was finding out Juneteenth had been celebrated as an annual June festivity to celebrate freedom after the end of slavery. And it had been supposedly celebrated for years, maybe decades. And I thought, what? I've never heard of this. It's a great celebration, but brand new. And about the same time, I also heard about this. So that's fascinating to me, that these Mandela effects sometimes they're tied in with a number of different factors. Like for me personally, Juneteenth and this Tulsa massacre are just like, I've never heard about them before. I don't know if there was a massive cover up. Like maybe that's was that what you were pointing out, Jerry? Like there could have been a cover up.
I was, there very well could have been. And if there were people that realized the effects this is having on others around them, I doubt they would want that information to get out, and it probably would try to use that to their advantage most of the time. So it very well could be a type of cover up. It could be those that have known this for a long time that we're just now stumbling upon it, if you will. But I have noticed that the strange energies from space over the last couple of years have really gotten kind of weird. I don't know about you guys, but the last couple of years for me have been the strangest I've ever lived through.
Yeah, I just want to mention too, as we're talking, I just got a text message alert from Space Weather. The planetary K index has reached a level of 5. A minor G1 class geomagnetic storm is in progress. So we are now in the midst of a minor storm right now as we speak, as we're creating this video. So if we go dark or something, if something happens and like the internet goes down, everyone will know what that is. It could be the solar storm.
I make a prediction based on this information alone that within the next week to 2 weeks, we shall start seeing new Mandela effects popping on the scene, bigger sized ones. That is a prediction. We'll see how well that plays out.
Going back to this, thank you for that news alert, Chris. And it's worth noting, and I think it's going to affect a lot of things in this time period. Like we said, there's a lot going on with that coronal mass ejection. I don't think we touched on that, but there's lots of solar activity happening. And going back to the Tulsa incident, I think I like to look at the positive potential of everything. So to me, I'm hoping that we can learn from past mistakes, whether even if it's not our mistake, just say this should never have happened, and let's make sure this something like this never happens again. So if there is some community, whether it's a Chinatown or a Black Wall Street or any community that wishes to build something, let's respect that. And I think all of us here would agree with me that that would be our intention, and maybe that's why something like this pops into our history suddenly, so it can be something like never again. Hopefully not to create vengeance or revenge, but instead wisdom and understanding and respect. That would be my hope going forward.
Well, I have noticed that it seems history is in a repetitive course from the 1920s to the 2020s, at least in a general tone, if not a little bit more. So you very well may be onto something. It may be our chance to repeat something and not make the mistake we did on the last go-round about 100 years ago. Can we go to the next slide, please? Here we go. Shout out, by the way, to our amazingly incredible producer behind the scenes, Heather. She does an amazing job. Keep it up. Solar eclipse June 10th. Chris, what do you got on this, bud?
Yeah, so with everything else going on, guess what? We have a solar eclipse coming up on June 10th, so 14 days from now, when the moon passes between the Earth and the sun. This particular solar eclipse will be seen in its entirety over northeastern Canada, Greenland, the Arctic Ocean, over the North Pole, and the Russian Far East. And a lot of other places, including where I am in Connecticut, will have at least a partial view of the solar eclipse. So it's just one more thing going on with the sun. Again, like, I feel that there could be some kind of additional timeline changes here, something we should be on the lookout for and be observant of. Yeah, all these things, they're not all disconnected. I feel that there's a connection. There's some kind of synchronicity between them. And as we can decipher it, it'll help us understand a little bit better what's going on.
It might also explain the odd timing of Mandela effects, because we've never been able to trace down a pattern, a specific pattern, a date pattern, a time pattern, anything like that. So if it's dealing with solar activity, that might explain why there's not a specific pattern per se. We're following the solar patterns, which seem to be quite random at this time.
And that's a lot more like weather when you get into solar patterns. It's a kind of weather. It's solar weather.
Exactly.
So solar weather has a little more impact on us than we think. Carla, do you know much about space and things like that? Have you studied a lot about this?
More or less. I'm just curious. I read a lot about it, but not something that I'm really into. I look for space program stuff and also about weather and things, but I'm not into that.
Well,
so
I mean,
much.
It's a new theory we're working on, and it's something that's really intriguing me, because the more evidence we find, the more this theory seems to correlate directly. But a solar eclipse passing over some really interesting areas here. It's going to be visible from North America, yes, at least partially, you said?
Yeah, partially. There's other maps that show a little bit more clearly, like how much of it you'd be able to see. So,
and Eastern America. So in the West out here, guys, sorry, we had our chance today, but some of us missed it. But that will be in the Eastern U.S. June 10th, 2021. So keep an eyeball out, ladies and gentlemen, for the middle of next month, and see if we have even more craziness as Mandela Effect goes. Can we get a
next slide?
Thank you. The brain is not on all fours today, ladies and gentlemen. I do apologize. It's still trying to wake up, at least portions of it. Today, a small CME hit the Earth at approximately 1:05 p.m. Eastern Time, when a minor cracked open in Earth's magnetic field. Is this the one we were just hearing about, Chris?
Yeah, this is something I just kind of snuck this into the PowerPoint presentation at the last minute, because this picture was taken outside outside my house. So what happened was I got in the text message alert that there was a crack opening in Earth's magnetic field, and that we were starting to get more energy soon. And then you look up in the sky, and what's going on with the sun? The sun looks like, you can see like the different colors there. You can also see like the strip like of darker blue to the top and below and to the left and to the right. And so, in the way I interpret it is like, wow, could this be a portal opening? Could this be showing some kind of a timeline change? Could this be a type of Stargate? And I talk about Stargates a lot in the videos I produce. And also, if it is a Stargate, could it be to a higher frequency universe? There's something called the Aurora portal, which is related to the Andromeda galaxy, but that people have been talking about, and as a possible sign that the Earth's frequency is rising and things are going to be getting better and better for us. So when you look up and you see the sun like that, you got to take a picture, right? So
Right.
There we go. So I wanted to at least document this, in this show, that this happened just a short time ago.
What time of day was it when you took the picture? The sky is such a beautiful blue. Did you Photoshop it?
No, not Photoshopped at all. Not at all. It's like 1:30,
Beautiful.
like 1:30 in the afternoon, PM.
So about an hour and a half ago then.
A little more than that where I am, but yeah.
Gotcha.
2.5 hours, yeah.
Now, that is amazing. And you talk about portals. Trust NASA, distrust NASA. I'm not the biggest fan by any means. As a ufologist, we know NASA lies. I will agree with that. But that said, they talk about a portal. They use the word portal that exists outside of Earth's atmosphere, right at the edge of Earth's atmosphere, as a matter of fact, and is interacted with by these solar flares and things of that nature. So it's definitely something that I would look into further if you're interested in that. I haven't had a chance to really dig deep, and there's not a lot of information on it. NASA basically came out and said, yeah, there's a portal right outside Earth's atmosphere, and kind of left it at that. So I can't find a whole lot more than pretty much just that. But it makes sense here with this solar flare that it could very well be just that. And if our theory's right, that could be what is causing a lot of these effects to come into place, this passing through this portal of the energies into Earth. Of course, theorizing off the top of my head right now, totally just brainstorming here. But the fact that NASA admits, again, like them, hate them, disagree with them, not saying they're right by any means, but they admit that there is a portal like within our atmosphere. So what do you guys think? Do you think it very well could be what we're seeing here, or what?
I think everything's on the table at this point. A lot of possibilities are open. Exactly.
Is this something that looked different to the eye than to the camera, Chris? That's my other, because sometimes when you get a picture, there's a quality to the photo that's.
Yeah, I think the photo made it look a slightly more dramatic, but from my eyes, you could still see like, oh, what's this there's like rainbowish colors around it. So, and just I don't know if it's just me, but over the last couple of days, it could just be me looking at a computer screen too much. Everything seems to have like a bluish tint to it. Like I look around my room or something and be like, wow, everything looks kind of bluish. So, yeah, so there's something going on with the sun. That's all I can say. I'm not sure exactly what it is, but there's something going on. So we'll figure it out. Don't you worry.
Chris, did you feel something when you saw this live? When you were there, did you feel something different, or that you realized?
More of just like, wow.
Wow.
Yeah.
I get a feeling. What I get, the intuitive impression I get looking at this is connection. It's like there's an instant connection, like when you have a psychic or telepathic connection with someone else. It's like connection. That's what I'm feeling.
Gotcha.
Yeah. I felt like that, like a portal of connection between worlds, and I don't know, something merging. I had the feeling also.
Yeah.
And I don't know if anyone has witnessed this too, but sometimes I see like circular, like rainbow things around the sun.
Yes.
Yeah. So, and I think there's probably a phenomena for that explains that, what that is, but
Oh, they talk about moon bows, but they have sun
yeah,
bows too.
sunbows. Yeah. So sunbows seem to be more common than I've ever, I never knew what a sunbow was until a couple of years ago. So yeah.
I'm not huge on that sunbow idea. I can't say I've really ever heard of that. So
You've heard of a moon bow, right? You've seen the
heard of
moon bows?
bow. Absolutely.
Okay.
I just never heard of the sunbow. That's definitely different. I've heard of the halos every now and again, but they aren't usually multicolored, you know.
Yeah.
Speaking of multicolored, I see a multicolored crazy flag in our next slide. Heather, if you don't mind, meat of this conversation, ladies and gentlemen, this is the International Mandela Effect Conference. And we have an international guest with us from Brazil, Miss Carla. Can you say your last name for me so I don't just totally demolish it?
Okay, it's Cicarino, but it's Italian. You can say Cicarino. It's easier.
Cicarino.
Cicarino.
All right, Miss Carla Cicarino is joining us. And Carla, are you familiar with this particular one we're looking at here?
God, that's why I was laughing now, because every time I look at that creepy flag and that name and everything makes me crazy. That was the biggest one here, and also to friends of mine and older people from my family, like, have you ever heard about that the name of Brazil since not so long time ago was the United States
Republic
of
of the
Brazil?
United States of Brazil. And it was this until 1890, or officially since 1891. And it stopped being used only in 1967. So I've never heard of the United States of Brazil. That's one thing. I live in the United States of America. I can understand me not hearing of it. But Carla, you said this is something that you had never heard of also as a Brazilian
never heard about. We studied a lot of Brazil history in school. You know, I went to good schools. I don't remember. I was good in history. My mother was very good. She was always helping me with homeworks. Everybody in my family, friends, and I was like, where was I? What is this? What does it mean? So this really astonished me when I found that, because of course nowadays you go everywhere, you read that in the books, but I was there, I studied. Was never that. It was never that crazy name. Has nothing to do with even the history of Brazil. That the Portuguese people came here, they found Brazil, they explored the Indians, you know, those regular stories. There was never that relation to USA and Brazil. And the name, it's creepy. It's creepy.
And what's with the flag? What's with these weird colors?
Well, honestly, the flag, I don't know if they made it for that article that I even sent to Chris, or if it's a flag that exists, because I didn't find anywhere else. But that flag is always just an image that they put for the article, like it would be the flag when the name was like that. But even the flag is crazy. Everything's crazy in that. Really, to me, everything is like, really, I'm a dumb person, or I don't know. This is really astonishing for me and for a lot of people that I know. You know, since now I don't know anyone who says, no, yeah, it's like that. You're crazy, you're dumb, you didn't go to school, or maybe teenagers now because they're learning that. But it was never that name. I swear to you guys.
It says that it's a Mandela effect for many within Brazil. Is it many of the older culture that are going, no, I don't remember that, or what?
Mostly my age and older people. Nowadays, I think that's what is taught in school. But was even from friends that from abroad, like you just said, you know, you're in USA. Have you ever heard of that? I've never heard of that. And it's not something little, you know, it's something that, oh, okay, Brazil had the USA name too. And it's what, 67? It's not so long ago. It's not like in ancient times or.
Now, it would have been US. Okay, Carla, it would have been USB, correct? United States of Brazil, which is like, then you talk USB like a port on the computer. I mean, you know, it would have been a big deal. People would notice that.
Yeah,
So-
yeah, and Brazil history had nothing to do with USA. It was more with Portugal, Europeans, the colonial historians. I know all of this. I had to study like crazy those things here, and to me, so insane, so insane. And then I said it's just me, and my friends were like, no, this is insane. Then I asked my mom. She used to be also a teacher, and she said, no, I never heard about that, you know. So
what do you
now,
remember? What do you guys remember instead of the United States of Brazil?
Brazil had first, when the Portuguese came, they gave a name of Vera Cruz. Brazil had another name.
I remember that. I remember.
Thank you, Cynthia.
I don't remember this United States of Brazil.
No, never happened. Brazil had other two names that now I forgot. And then it changed to Brazil because of the tree that was famous here, Pau Brasil.
Yes.
That was a lot, and Portuguese people used to take a lot from this country. And then the name became Brazil. Okay. But Brazil had three different names before. The most famous, Vera Cruz, right after the colonization. And never, what does it have to do with, you know? So anyway, for me, this is
USB,
really...
Cynthia. And I had thought about that, but not quite in that context. I was thinking USA, USB. Where's USB?
It's insane.
Carla, how many states are there in Brazil?
Oh, please don't ask me.
Oh, okay.
I don't know.
Okay.
It's a lot. 40 some. I don't know now. Honestly, I don't know.
Okay.
That's a Mandela effect here in America. How many states? So that's
that I know.
Okay.
I know, but here's so many that I don't remember now, like a right number to tell you. That I really pass.
All righty, that is crazy. The United States of Brazil, ladies and gentlemen, that even the Brazilians have never heard of. There we go. That's interesting to find out Mandela effects from another country. This is an opportunity we don't get that often. But there is one Mandela effect from your country that a lot of the community has followed. Next slide, please. And that is the great Jesus statue here. There's been a lot of changes the way I understand this. Carla, have you seen this in person?
Yeah. I visit many times. My grandparents used to live there. So I have some relatives living there. So I went many times. I remember going, and to me, it changed a lot.
Like, what has changed on the statue to you?
Okay. So first, that little heart here in the middle, to me, I've never seen, and I've seen many times. Even when you go to the little stores that they have around and they sell the replica of the statues, I remember having it. Now I don't have anymore. Otherwise, I would check it. They never had it. And the real one, you're there. I think Chris was there. He also probably saw. And to me, I do not remember. Also, in my memory, the Christ was the open wide arms. They were more like straight, and it was looking more up, like the head was more like that. And now it's looking down, and the arms are more like flexible, more like that. Also, it's a big difference for me. Like looking very down, because before he was looking to the entire city of Rio, and I was just like looking down, very close. And the fact that also, I think it's the next slide, but I think the base also, it's huge compared to what it used to be to me.
Isn't the color different too? Was it like a dark brown like that before?
Yeah, that I don't know, but can be, Chris, can be.
Yeah, because I went to Rio de Janeiro in the early 2000s, like maybe 2003, something like that. And the base was not like that at all. That looks like it's on a little building from what I remember. And even to me, Jesus' face looks a little bit different as well. You know, I don't think I observed it quite as much, but Yeah, it definitely seems to be a lot different than it was before, especially for me, the heart and the base. Absolutely.
And that heart keeps getting bigger is what people are noticing too. That's really interesting. So it went from not having the heart at all to a little one to getting bigger.
Yeah, yeah, I agree, Cynthia, because every time I see it's calling you more, that heart, you see more. And here, everywhere, everything, they put the Redeemer, there's video clips. You grew up, you see that all the time. Imagine if it's famous out of Brazil, imagine in Brazil. So I know, I watch it. I'm someone who's picky. I look at details. I like that. And I was like freaking out with that heart, even the position. And I participate of a Mandela Effect Brazil Facebook group. And a lot of people there that I don't know, but they were there. And they were saying also that they also saw that the arms were wide open, straight, not like that. And the head was also more up, looking more, not like down, like he's with the head down. They also said those things and said, okay, so I'm in the right way.
So you said that building or that thing beneath it looks like a building. It actually is. It's a church. Seats up to something like 2,500 people, and it might be 1,000. I might have my numbers wrong, but I looked this up a couple of weeks ago because this came into question with the group I was with. Now, let me ask you, Carla, the base is different size, you said, and I'll wholly agree with that. Wholly agree. But is the size of the statue different? Is it taller? Is it shorter? But aside from the base, is the statue itself differently sized?
To me, it's bigger. I feel like when you see people and you see the pictures, it's like they're little ants around. And I remember being not so big. And I was, I went there the first time, I guess I was a child. So everything is bigger to you, of course, in dimensions. But nowadays, for me, it's bigger than it used to be. It was much more smaller. Like that base was not that huge. So it was lower, and not so huge like it is now. But like I said, this is my impression. And the people also that comment in that forum, that group, I think it's really bigger than it used to be to me.
So this is one that a lot of the community have pointed at and said the shape is wrong, the head is wrong, the arms are wrong, the heart is wrong.
Well, wait a minute. I like the heart. That's cool.
Yeah, me too. I like.
But it's not something that was there prior, so it's new. Let me rephrase the word wrong with new.
New, yeah.
I think the heart's really neat too, and the fact the heart's growing, and that's my symbol, by the way. Everywhere I go, that is my sigil. It shows up somewhere, wherever I'm at.
I see it everywhere too. Yeah,
really?
It's like everywhere. Like in leaves, little bits of string on the street or stones. Like every stone looks heart shaped.
Stain on the wall.
Everything, yeah, always, yep. Yeah.
Absolutely, I got the same thing. It could be a rock. It could be just that shape shows up everywhere for me, and I wonder if that isn't kind of permeating throughout reality itself. Just that shape. Or the love that it brings with it. It could be messaging a lot, but we're going to get into a lot of what if and speculation if we continue down this road. So, continuing, let's continue down the list of slides. She already knows. She's she's really good at picking these clues up. Top notch, Heather. One thing that is interesting here: monument as banderas to the flags. Carla, tell us about this. What is this?
Okay, this is a famous monument here in my city, and now it's completely different. That monument used to be everybody that you see on this picture. They were pushing this huge boat. All of them were working on it. They were pushing it, and there was no this gap between the horses and the boat. There was no gap, and that monument is very famous in the city, and even it's called in Portuguese puxa puxa, like push, because everybody was pushing. And now it's that gap, everybody's more like almost not doing much. Just the poor little one behind there, almost killing himself to pay attention, to push. And everybody's like, okay, you know, it's not like it used to be. It was much tougher looking, was much more like the fight from the bandeirantes that were people in the time of old history of São Paulo city. So that really, really changed. And also in that group, in the forum that I go, many Brazilians freaking out, even people that are not from São Paulo, and they come here and they notice that it changed, you know, and they don't even know about Mandela effect. So they say, there's something weird out. To me, it was like that. And the most significant proof was that I even sent to Chris, a person who made I don't know in English the name, but they made a model, a kind of a model to make I forgot the word, sorry. Anyway, to remember that monument, and the person built a model, and he built like it was, not like it is. You know, like the statue, the thinker, that people go there and take picture there, making different positions, even in front of the statue. The guy made a model to represent the monument, and he made the way it was, and not the way it is, without even looking at. And now it's all changed. So I wanted to show you that because it's a famous one here in my city.
That is awesome. I love hearing about the international ones because even though I may not be familiar with, for instance, this monument, the fact that we have monuments like the Thinker in Italy, we've got the Statue of Liberty here in America that we know has had a lot of changes to it. So it's these what's the word I'm looking for? These
iconic,
iconic, yes, these iconic monuments. Again, the brain's not woken all the way up yet, but it's these iconic monuments and iconic things across history that we find the Mandela effect latches onto and affects big time. I like that you said one of your artist friends in Brazil actually had recreated this the way he remembered it, and it's different than what it shows here. We've had this quite a bit with the recreations and stuff being the only thing that really survives the change.
Yeah.
It could be the human consciousness effect on it. I'm not sure yet. But that's interesting that it's these iconic monuments, these things that everybody and anybody would know, at least in that area, right?
Yeah.
That's a form. That's kind of proof too. We could look at this as residue, Mandela effect residue, when there's a commemoration, a commemorative project like this. So it's quite, it's a thing. It's a whole category unto itself, which may not convince everybody, but I think it's pretty convincing when you've got like the JFK car that shows like the commemoration of it, the reconstruction of it shows just the 4 people in the car.
They
or
have
in this
a
case,
car in a museum, right, Cynthia? They have in a museum a car with 4 places.
Yeah, there have been people that that people have created that. So yes, and in this case, you said your friend or someone that's created the push. So people really are pushing instead of standing around and watching the horse and this one guy in the back do everything.
Poor. Just a small guy behind killing himself there, I know. And one thing about residue, I should have brought here to show you, but the logo of Ford, right?
Yes.
I have that's like a pigtail, right, nowadays.
Yep. Yeah.
And I have a paper, old, like from 1980 something, and there's the logo there, and there's no pigtail. So it's a residue. I think I have one. I'm not crazy, But yeah, just to tell you that.
But it's one thing when you have a group of people tell you, "Hey, I remember this different." It's another thing when you have countries of people that are reporting the same thing. Because I can take all the things in one country and say, "Oh, no, that's interesting." All the case files. But when I start getting case files across the world that are telling me the exact same thing in their country that we're seeing in our country, monuments, things like that, for instance, that's when you have to stand up and take note. It's not just an American thing. It's not just a Northern Hemisphere thing. It's not just a things like that. It's something we're getting reports from all over the world that this is happening in their culture just as well as ours. And speaking of culture, let me ask you, Carla, what do you remember the capital of Brazil being?
Well, I remember Brasilia, which is actually the city I was born. And to me was always Brasilia. But I also studied that for a while was, I think, Rio de Janeiro for a while. But then it became Brasilia. So far, I don't know any Mandela effect about it. Do you?
I do actually. Here in America, we're not quite as educated on Brazilian things. I'll preface it with that. Let's be honest here. I don't know my map as well as some may, but there's been claims from a lot of people that they also remember Rio de Janeiro being the capital. And I got to say, if I was asked straight off the top, that would have been my first answer was Rio de Janeiro. But again, I'm not a geographer, so I'll fully admit that, from the word go. I ain't going to say I know it was, but there are a lot of people here in America that do remember Rio de Janeiro opposed to Brasilia.
I think that, yeah, I'm not so sure how long, but there was a little time that Rio was, and then it changed to Brasilia. But thank you didn't say, because a lot of people say that it's Buenos Aires. Some people.
That would be my second guess for the record.
A lot of people say, oh, the
That's
capital
funny.
of Brazil is Buenos Aires. No, but honestly, no, I was just kidding. For a short time was Rio, I guess. And I'm not even that sure how long. But then for a long, long time, it's Brasilia. But it's not so known because Rio, of course, is much more known for the tourism and everything. But Brasilia is the capital. And yeah, some people are sure that it's still Rio. True. Some people think
That's
that.
so intriguing because so far we've got a monument, we've got a city, and we've got these same things in America where people claim no, it wasn't that. I remember it being that. Yet that's what it shows. And our flag also has some interesting anomalies to it, as well as the way I'm looking at it. The Brazilian flag. Am I correct on this?
Yeah.
The next slide.
Yeah, next slide.
There we go. So the Lone Star above the used to represent the city of Brasilia, and it was far from the white strip and not so close as it is now. Is that correct?
Yeah, that it was very up. Alone there was a Lone Star, very up, not close to the strip. And was another state, which I just told you, it's Brasilia, the capital. Always, I learned. I even went asking people, "What did you learn? What did you learn?" And like always, am I crazy? No, it was Brasilia. And now all of a sudden, there's another state that has nothing to do with anything. Yes, and it's there. And people who is in this timeline says, no, it was always this state called Pará, but it's not. I know, I learned, I had to memorize for exams, I had to study, so that also changed.
And you don't remember it being Pará, as you said, you remember it being the other way around. The original flag, though, you have a really, really strong familial connection to the original first flag. Is that correct?
Oh, yeah, because my grandmother was the first one to stitch the first, I think it's stitch, to stitch the first Brazilian flag. And also, I remember, and a lot of people also, that written words that you see in the white stripe was in black, was never green. And now is that green out of nowhere, And I remember because I learned in family, they were always telling me about my grandmother who did that and how important it was. And it's something that Brazilians love to wear the flag everywhere. We are always showing the flag somewhere. So you grow up with this. And then all of a sudden, when Mandela Effect started, I was like, Jesus, man, what the hell is that green color? Did they change? And then you go look for okay, never was like that. It's not that they change. Okay, let's make a green color now to change. No, it was always like that. And also the Lone Star was always Pará and not Brasilia, you know. So that picked me out also.
And now it represents Brasilia then, and not Para?
No, now it's Pará. Before was Brasilia. In my timeline, in my memory, was Brasilia. Even because it's the capital, it's, you know, it was the lonely, we call here Distrito Federal, Federal District, and was it? But now it's Pará. That has nothing to do. Why Pará? Nobody knows why Pará is there.
And tell us about the Ordem e Progresso, the color on this. This is different then?
Yeah. It was black before, and now it's green. And was never green. It was always black, you know? Like I said, everywhere we grow up with that. We see the flag everywhere. We like to use shirts with the flag. We're so much into the flag situation. It was never black. And all the friends I asked, all my family, all people I asked, and they say, no way it was black. And it never was. It never was. You know.
And does green have a certain representative color as far as its meaning in Brazil? Is there a specific meaning behind it why it would be there? Like the background green, for instance. That's why I was wondering.
You mean in the big part, the green?
Yeah.
It represents the forest, you know, the green, the Amazon, the forest of Brazil, which are famous. So represents a lot of the greenish colors of Brazil because we are surrounded by forests but
gotcha.
The main thing is this: the Lone Star and that color.
We're getting a lot of static here. I don't know what's going on. Is someone moving something?
It might be, I'm not sure. Might be her headset rubbing against clothing or hair, or neck or something. I'm not sure.
Okay.
I don't think it's me, but I'll mute myself for a bit.
Okay. I can mute myself too.
I don't know.
Oh, thanks for the super sticker. There's a super sticker.
I was just about to get here. Thank you. I appreciate that. Throwing that up on the screen there. And it didn't show like I hoped it did. We show there. Interesting. JD Peterson, $10, #1 fan super sticker. Thank you so much.
Woo!
We're the #1 fan of our fans, so that's awesome. Thanks for all the good work, they said. Well, thank you so very much for being here and for the super sticker and hanging out with us. We really very sincerely appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you so much.
If you guys would like to support us, we are a 501c3 non-for-profit organization. All money goes back into the community. We have the super chat and the super stickers there on the side. Help yourself. We would glad to have your participation. And speaking of participating, we have Miss Carla Cicarino. I hope I said it right that time. Joining us this evening for an amazing discussion on these Brazilian Mandela effects. We just covered the flag Mandela effect. Way to go, Heather, throwing that back up on the screen. Appreciate that. Which is really interesting because, like we said, Carla's great grandmother created and stitched the first flag, and you had that word spot on, by the way. But moving out a little bit bigger from flags and monuments to the actual world map, if I could get the next slide, please. Perfect. Brazil is now closer to the African continent, and time zones are 1 hour ahead of the USA, which is really interesting. But we have seen the map completely like discombobulated and smashed together. And have you noticed a difference in location, whether it be other stuff to Brazil or Brazil itself?
No, only that closer to Africa, which we noticed, all Mandela Effect people noticed that we are almost kissing Africa. Mm-hmm. And we used to be a bit backwards, very actually in the same line, more or less, USA. Like yes. I remember seeing my flights when I used to visit USA, especially New York. I remember it was almost like a straight line from São Paulo to New York, almost. And now we are like forward. And like I said, almost kissing Africa continent. And this is really, really crazy. And this was in one of the games I did with my friends. And I asked, draw what you remember from school, what you learned in the world map, where Brazil is, America, Europe, Africa. And people used to do exactly like more like, you know. And then I show, and then people come to realize like, what? I know, maybe they renewed, they redesigned or something, you know. And then I remember my friend, he went to those old grandmothers' encyclopedias from 18 something. And then, okay, I'm going to find one that is the one I remember. And he didn't, you know, and we were looking through old encyclopedias, and there was nothing like that. It's always like that, the new one.
One way you can preserve it, we don't have Shane with us today, but he did a love map, writing the word for love in every language. And because he created it, he can actually see it when it was changing. So we've got some record of it right in our International Mandela Effect Conference itself, where he was pointing at it and noticing, hey, it's changed since I last did the video. It's really cool.
Yeah, it keeps changing, you know. I think if you look like today, I think Chris said about 2 new cities that, not cities, but Sardinia and, right, Chris?
Corsica, yeah, that's on the next slide.
Yeah, okay, yeah. But, you know, I think they keep changing. Like I told also to me, Canada, with that big hole that there's in Canada, for me, it's crazy. It keeps changing.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. The maps keep changing. I included this slide too because, you know, the size of Sardinia is growing so much, it's getting so much bigger. And Corsica, especially as well. And Corsica has really been on my radar lately because of that, this 2-part series about Napoleon that I put together, because Napoleon is from Corsica. So a lot of people don't realize that it's not really a Mandela effect, but Napoleon was Italian. And Corsica became a French territory. And then that's how he got involved with France and the French military. But Corsica was just like this tiny little thing in the Mediterranean. And I looked at the map today and I'm like, whoa, what's happened to Corsica? Like, wow, what's happened to Sardinia? A lot of people are familiar with Sicily and how much closer Sicily is to the boot, so to speak. But yeah, it's almost like the water levels are going down. And I just want to add one thing. No, I know it's almost like we are on a different Earth, because when I drive to work every day, I'm always noticing these Mandela effects, and I drive over these causeways where there's water on either side, and now there's just grass fields. And when the tide comes up, it'll cover up over the grass a little bit, but then when the tide goes out, it's just bright green grass. And I used to like go out in a sailboat over there, and I'm like, I used to go in a Hobie Cat there. That would have been impossible. So yeah, there's so many things happening with the planet itself that are just intensifying. So I wanted to throw this one in there. It's not a part of Brazil, but I thought, you know, it's a good time to talk about geography.
No, it's awesome.
Sardinia has fallen on my radar recently because they've had a lot of giant archaeological finds down there.
Really?
I've been hearing a lot about that the last month or so. There have been a lot of lectures talking about it. So very interesting there. And the fact that it does keep moving and growing and changing. And it could just be me, but I don't remember Corsica being that close to Sardinia. Again, I'm not a geography guy, so it might just be me. I don't know.
A lot of people would miss Corsica on the map because it was so small.
Right.
So yeah, now you can't miss it. And it's a great, if you want to go on a vacation, I hear Corsica is like the place to go. So people from Europe, that's like one of their big destinations, is to go to Corsica. Just a beautiful area.
Because I remember Sardinia and the one that the boot's about to kick, and now it looks like it's sitting on top of the boot.
Sicily.
Sicily, thank you. It was very much further up into the ocean, the way I remember it. There were only really 2 big ones, Sicily and Sardinia, and that was it.
Yeah, me too.
Smaller ones, not the size we're looking at, for instance, like with Corsica. So very intriguing there, indeed. Anything you'd like to add to this, Carla? Is this strange to you too?
Yeah, really strange. Like Sardinia, my aunt used to live there, and I remember checking the maps and looking at it. I know I'm always checking things, and it was not that size. Now it's bigger. It's huge to me. More than Corsica, I never paid attention. Maybe because it was smaller, I never paid attention. But Sardinia, yeah, I remember, and it's really, really big. and Cecilia close to the boot, was never like that. Was a bit far from me.
Right.
Also.
Boot had to move up to actually kick it, right?
Yeah.
It was about to kick it. It wasn't in the process of kicking it, as I remember growing up.
Now it's alive and kicking.
So let's go ahead and jump to our next slide here. Christ head separated from the body. And we're still talking the Christ the Redeemer statue. We probably should have backed this up a little more. And stayed in another city in 1931 when it arrived from Paris. Then later went to Rio to complete the statue. So I've never heard of this traveling Jesus head before. Holy cow, or holy head in this case. Have you guys heard of this? This is new to me.
No, to me it was astonishing. First, I never knew that the head was separated.
Right. It's one thing for an American not to know this. And I'll give it, we aren't as educated on Brazilian stuff as a Brazilian would be.
Yeah.
But now a Brazilian tells me, no, I don't remember any of this stuff, man. That's interesting to me. Go ahead. I apologize for cutting you off.
Mm-hmm. It's okay. And it was funny because I just ran into a post of my aunt on Facebook. And she posted that because she's a journalist and she lives in Rio, actually Niterói, that is a city close to Rio. It's almost the same thing. Anyway, so she posted that saying that she never knew about that. She doesn't know anything about Mandela Effect. She's out of this world. And she's a journalist. She researches. She knows the Rio de Janeiro history and stuff. And then she posted that, and I was like, what? I also never read about that. First, the head is separated from the body. Second, it was in another city, then traveled, and then went, too much. And I never heard about that. Then I went asking some people. They also didn't know. And it was just randomly because she just posted saying that she doesn't remember.
I've got another question. Something I'm noticing, that's a person's, is that right? For scale, standing next to the head. And if we look at that seems like it's a smaller head than the one that we saw on the actual current heart, the version of the Christ the Redeemer with the hands and the heart different. This seems like a smaller head, doesn't it?
Yeah, you're right, Cynthia. Yeah, it does.
So we got something else going on here.
Yeah, because if you see the people there in the pictures, they look like little things. And imagine.
And this is more like what you remember.
Yeah.
Smaller, like the original version. And they didn't switch it out.
Seems to be looking forward, too, instead of angled down.
Right. See?
Yeah,
it's like
true.
This is the way you remember it. It's smaller and looking forward.
Yeah, because even imagine they have the neck and they would put on top. It's looking forward, not like down, like he's,
This is amazing.
That was great.
This is really great. Who found this? This is your aunt that found it, right?
Yeah,
Carla?
she posted that randomly on Facebook, and I was like, what? How?
This is brilliant.
From 1931 too.
Love it. And it's interesting that it didn't change with everything else changing. It didn't get bigger, change the inflection of the head, and so forth.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, I didn't notice even that. Yeah, true.
Fascinating.
Absolutely fascinating indeed. I gotta say that's and I've seen the head before, but I didn't know that that's what I was looking at when I seen this. Was apparently detached from the body and traveling around.
What was the deal with that? What's the story? I mean, why?
I tried to find out how the head was not in the body and why it's separated, but I could not find it. Why? It's just a huge thing. Just make everything one. I don't know why it was separated.
So this is that's a Mandela effect also for you, that there was a separation.
Mm-hmm.
There's a tie-in with the thinker, because it's the head and the heart thing again. For those of us tracking the Mandela effect, there's a fascinating connection here.
got to keep them separated. Sorry. The jukebox in my head it's got little autoplay function that's broken, so it just does random play. I hear a word and it starts playing the song related. It's really strange. But speaking of related, do we have any questions, ladies and gentlemen, related to all the things we've covered today, or any questions from Miss Carla? Any questions about International Mandela Effects? Now is your time to go ahead and put them in chat. We'll see as many as we can cover while we're here. And in the meantime, I'm going to scroll back a little bit and see what I can find.
Thank you.
I like that last comment. There's a lot of Mandela effects, more than a Brazilian.
Love it.
Oh, that's pretty slick right there. I got a question, Mr. Anatra. I'm a fan of you, says Juan Basura. A while ago, you said you were going to travel to Antarctica. What happened?
I still plan on going to Antarctica, and I keep discovering new things about it. As a matter of fact, I discovered, like if you go on an African safari, you can stay like they set up tents, and they're supposed to be luxury type tents. They do the same thing in Antarctica. You travel from, I think it's South Africa, and you go someplace onto the continent, and you can actually stay there. So besides cruises now, you can actually stay on Antarctica. And yeah, I still want, I'm being called to go to Antarctica. I really think in the next few years, it's something that's going to happen. So, and I'll definitely be talking more about that too, because maybe it could even be some kind of a trip. Maybe there'd be a lot of people that would want to go and, visit those black pyramids and, hang out with the golden penguin, all that kind of stuff. So, yeah, I still plan on going. Absolutely.
Well, make sure you take about 10 layers, because I know up here in the mountains in the winter, I need about 5. So Antarctica, I figure you need at least double that, right?
Yeah, probably. It depends on the season too. You don't want to go when it's
that's the summertime. Yeah. Venezuela, to me, says preliminal, moved drastically. I remember it being above Argentina and below Brazil, so that leads me into more of a question than a statement. Have you noticed in South America different countries around Brazil that have moved, or just different things in general that have moved in South America?
No, so far I didn't. I just noticed that between USA and Africa continent and North America, but so far not yet, but I will have a look. Interesting.
A lot of people have reported different countries like in the Middle East being replaced. To me, Iran and Iraq swap places. I remember them being opposite of where they are right now. Same shapes, names were different, that's me. And there's been other people who've claimed that different countries or different states in America, for instance, are placed incorrectly. So I appreciate that. Do keep an eye out. If you find anything, do definitely let us know. Compa Cosmico. I hope I got that right. Do you remember gold being the best electrical conductor of all metals?
I would say yes. Don't tell me it's kryptonite.
What it is actually right now.
Is there a better one now?
I remember gold too. I guess this is indicating it's changed. Apparently it's different now. We'll have to check that out.
Based on the question, one would assume, right?
Right.
We got some Spanish speaking going on in the chat. I love it. Love to see that. Love to see the international people conversing over there around the American people. That's awesome. Do we have any more questions here for the group or for Miss Carla? Sweden for me was above Poland, said preliminal, and not next to Norway. Denmark's another one that we are sure has moved. Our buddy Shane, as we spoke of a little bit ago, Shane Robinson, unbiased and on the fence, he did a map for the last conference. And what he did is he took all the countries and he wrote love in their language in that country. Just wrote it over and over and over and over across the whole country. So there was one of them that either he just decided he wasn't going to do it anymore, or it wasn't there when he did the map. And that was, of course, Denmark. And it had moved up above Europe, basically, connecting to the north of Europe. and had no words written in it whatsoever. Once again, I don't see artists that just get through 3/4 through their stuff and say, you know what, I ain't gonna do it no more. You know, what do you think about that, Carla?
Well, I didn't know about that, but I noticed in other, not around Brazil, but other countries, like how we were talking about Canada, about New Zealand and Australia also, that to me, they completely changed it. You know, I think Korea and Japan are too close and they would not to be side by side in my timeline. And also Mongolia, it's huge now, and it didn't, and I think it is lower and it used to be above or something like that. And it's huge. So I noticed those changes, you know, and I believe that if we look right now, we're going to find new things also.
I would 100% agree with that. And it's, again, interesting. I must point out, you've got a person from Brazil who is not as exposed to American stuff as Americans. And even she is pointing out Australia, Mongolia, South America, Africa, the same thing we've all pointed out for a very long time. So again, it just goes to show that people not only in our country, but around the world are seeing the exact same thing. Question to Carla. Do you think CERN is doing the whole thing, or does Earth Ascension play a role as well?
That's my friend, by the way, who has the channel of Mandela Effect.
All right.
Oh, shout out. Appreciate that, Mr. Garcia.
Well, it's one of the theories that CERN has something to do with that, you know. But honestly, I don't know. I don't know if because it's supposed to be emerging timelines, it's a new era, a new thing happening. I think CERN has something to do with that, because also they, even if it's to promote themselves, but they gave a lot of tips on their video clips. Even in the paper, when you visit CERN, they have all the Mandela effects showing there. And I think they have something to do with it. I just don't know to explain much, you know.
So my theory with CERN, to back up what you're saying here, they are working with D-Wave Computer. That's not a conspiracy. They both admitted they're working together. What's interesting is CERN said, we're trying to open a portal to another dimension. D-Wave said, we are opening portals to other dimensions. And now they're working together. So I would definitely say that there's a good possibility that you could be right. And the ones in Brazil that believe that CERN could somehow be connected. It might not be the answer, but it definitely could be connected.
And I remember, Jerry, I sent to Chris, there's a video clip for, I think, 1984, 1987 from CERN. The CERNettes, it's called the girls that were singing, and they're talking about time change. And it's really interesting. It's a very old video clip. Do you remember, Chris?
I remember you said, yes, I do remember it.
If you still have it, can you send to them so they can have a look? Or it's called CERNettes, the girls that are singing those kind of 70s, 80s way. And they're talking about changes in times from CERN, CERNettes.
The CERNet, I made myself a note right here.
Yeah. Check it out.
I've never heard of the CERNettes.
I think they have a finger on it.
The CERN had a female singing group called the CERNet?
Yeah.
80s music? My goodness. I like 90s. I'm okay with the 80s. And I had an ex-girlfriend who loved the 80s. I've never heard of these CERNettes. This is a little weird to me. We got musical groups now popping into reality.
And the lyric is weird. It's creepy. You should listen.
And they're talking about time travel nonetheless. Kind of a wink, wink, nod, nod, huh? I like that. Lewis Carroll, who threw us a $10 super chat earlier, shout out. Appreciate that, Lewis Carroll. He's been following me for a while, so love you follow us over here to the conference page here. In regards to solar activity affecting human behavior, Chris, I think this is actually for us. Do you guys feel a lot of the odd and violent incidents happening recently have to do with that? Or I guess the question would be, would it have to do with the energies from space, all the craziness we're seeing?
Do I think it? I think the sun. Yeah, I think the solar energy definitely plays a role into that.
Cynthia, what do you think?
Yeah, it's possible. It seems like that's another thing to study, the correlation and what the possible connection might be. Something interesting I've been looking at with correlation and causation is that they're kind of partners. And I think we see a lot of this interesting interplay with the Mandela effect. There's the things that we actively are doing to switch timelines, and there's stuff that's perhaps guided by higher level consciousness, whatever you want to call it. And some people have trouble staying grounded when there's that much energy coming through. And so one thing that's really important during this week of the solar storms, and perhaps ongoing for the next few years, it looks like NASA's been issuing an alert like we need to do all of our lunar trips that are being planned before 2025, because there's going to be an even greater incidence of solar weather. But yes, it affects us on Earth for sure. And those of us that are sensitive to things like the eclipses and all of the things that are going on celestially, a lot of us are very, very sensitive to that. We've learned we have to stay grounded much more than usual, even during these times. And with the Schumann resonance going off the chart like it has been, these are times when grounding is super important, which is an energy practice of, involving breathing and really connecting with the earth. So yes, absolutely. We need to stay grounded. And I think we're seeing that with the 100-year anniversary of that Tulsa event that was very unfortunate. And then recent events were the 1-year anniversary of what happened last year. So we need to stay grounded more than ever.
And as empaths, I will second that. We have the ability to quickly and easily pick up the energies, especially others, but any energies around us. So staying grounded and being less affected by the craziness energies is definitely a huge key. What do you think, Miss Carla?
Well, I agree. Sorry. I agree. It's a very major, important time that we are passing through. All the things that are happening is a wake-up call to us. Mandela Effect is a wake-up call. I believe that everybody who feels, who experiment the Mandela Effect is being called a wake-up call. And it's time for us to ground, like Cynthia and you guys said, because it's going to be, and this is my point of view, of course, my feelings, but it's going to be a huge division, a separation for those who are waking up and for those who are not. Because it's needed. You just don't have an excuse. You have to. And there's many times of waking up. It's not like, okay, it's only knowing about Mandela Effect. No, it makes part of the process, but we really need to start looking around, get out of media, get out of the mainly things of paying bills, and open your mind for something bigger that is happening. And many people are going to wake different way. The call is different for everybody, but we must. And it's a really, really important time. It's not just like a show or something of crazy people, conspiracy people getting together. You can see everywhere there's a change. So it's really important to ground yourself, find out who you are, watch the Quantum Businessman, the whole series, the whole videos, because it brings a lot of knowledge, honestly, brings a lot of things that we think we know, but then Chris comes with something that, okay, I didn't know that. How come? Always something new. And it's really important because through his videos, he's waking up a lot of people. And
how much are you paying her, Chris? She sure is saying a lot of nice things about
not enough, that's for sure. I just want to add one more thing to this part of the conversation, is that I think that people that are going to have a harder time, like whether it's solar activity, if you're at like a lower consciousness level or like a lower frequency or denser, or you have more darkness within you, you're going to have more of a challenge. Those are the ones that are really going to struggle. But those of us that are really working hard to stay positive, keep our frequency up, keep raising our consciousness, keep expanding our consciousness, we're going to be able to have a little bit of a better time. So that's why it's really important to do all these like really try to look at things in a positive way. Even though there's a lot of like things that don't make sense and it's depressing and what's going to happen now and blah, blah, blah. Yeah, just stay grounded, like everyone's saying, and keep your frequency up. That's my advice. And thank you.
I love to, I love to end each video with how good can it get. And I think that's what all of IMEC is doing. If you go to all the conference videos that we've done starting in 2019, and thanks to Chris and his team for putting that all up there on the website. It's amazing. And there's so much good material so people can feast themselves, learn from all of those excellent talks that we've given, and it's amazing information. So it does show the breadth and depth of the subject and what people can do positively. And a lot of people participated in these conferences last year and the year before. So.
And I love that. How good can he get? That is something that I now live by, thanks to Cynthia. And the worse my day gets, even if it's in a very, very sarcastic tone, well, how good can it get? It surprisingly does. I'm going to go ahead and answer the question that was laid on the table a couple moments ago. I personally think that the energies from space are very much responsible for the wackiness that we're seeing in today's world. Including the propaganda, including the ones that are making the decisions at the top. I think these strange energies are definitely affecting them in ways that were extremely unpredictable at best. That is my opinion. I know I have seen an emotional roller coaster in the last month or so, just in my personal life. Speaking of personal emotional roller coasters, guys, I'm not going to say too much about this, but do please keep Shane Robinson in your prayers. He is going through a lot right now. I'm not going to put his business out there. That's up to him to do, but just know that he needs your prayers and your kind thoughts right now. He is going through quite a bit. I've got one last question that I would like to end on, if you guys don't mind. Brian Stavely has stated 1,000 times, 1,001 times, everyone, whether they know it or not, everyone is affected by the Mandela effect. And you brought up a multitude of examples tonight, Miss Carla. You said many times they don't even know about the Mandela effect, and yet they're pointing this out. Would you agree that everybody is affected by the Mandela effect to some degree?
Yeah, in this way, yeah, everybody is, but sometimes they just don't know what it is. But they feel that something changed, something's different, and maybe they cannot explain. But yeah, I believe the entire world is affected by Mandela effect. Just it's a matter of knowing or not knowing, But they have something's weird, something changed, but depends on the person. Like, it's just my memory, but I believe in this. That everybody is affected by.
Would you guys agree that everybody at some degree is affected, whether they admit it or not?
Yeah, absolutely. And I get into that a bit in some of my books. And I think it was demonstrated on the Rip and Rabbit show when AJ was talking with Moneybag 73. And then they brought on that expert of memory. And she herself was Mandela affected. So even as she's arguing, like this is all something that you misremember, and then she's remembering things differently about Fly My Pretties Fly, and she had several things that were just like, what? She did not know that these things are not the way that she remembered. Now that's a little bit different. She that was Elizabeth Loftus I'm talking about, the memory expert. And so just a shout out for Moneybag 73 and, of course, Rip and Rabbit Show as well. But that's just illustrating our point that I agree with Stavely, and I think we're all agreeing here. Yes, everyone's affected, but they might not know it, and they're not aware of it, and they might not even admit to it, which that's like full circle back to the show I just did with the Merseyside skeptic, Marsh, from the Skeptics group in the UK, and he's very respectful. So I love that kind of respectful, open-minded skepticism, just expecting that we can be rational and talk about a subject that sounds crazy. But if people are supposed to believe us, then what evidence can we provide that will make that easier for them to do? If they're all affected, how can we show that to them? And I think we're doing our very best, but it's obviously an area to keep working on.
You mentioned Moneybags. Carla, if you know who Moneybag 73 6. What is it now? One of them. I can never remember which one because apparently I've met both. But if you know who Mr. Moneybags from the Mandela Effect community is,
Evan. We'll call him Evan. Yeah.
he has a wife that is Spanish, and he's told me about a multitude of Spanish Mandela effects. So being that that's your culture, maybe you would get a hold of him. Maybe you guys could kind of converse a little bit. You'd have a little more to talk about than most people would have with him.
I'm not so familiar with that one.
So Moneybags is a really popular YouTuber from the Mandela Effect community. He does the voting video series. So he'll put out a Mandela Effect and, hey, thumbs up if you agree, thumbs down if you disagree. You know, really good evidence pool. So Moneybags 76, I think it is right now. It might be
Not 73. I think it's 3.
Okay, 73. Again, I can never remember, but check out him on YouTube. You might be
I
very
will.
interested in his work. And like I said, his wife is Spanish, and she knows of a multitude of Spanish Mandela.
Okay, because I didn't know about this one. I will check about it. And just to add something, also I was talking earlier before in the meeting with Chris and Heather that even Philip K. Dick, he was saying already about not Mandela Effect with that name, but he was talking about things in his life that were different, like the switcher on his bathroom. And I remember him saying that on an interview, and he was saying that everything changed. And then he passed many stories that he makes as a fiction in his books, probably things that he was dealing with, that remember things that were not anymore. He was talking about that also. And also, just to add a little thing, one more thing, is that nowadays that we have that thing going on and people are more at home with a bit more free time for things, that's the time. That's the good part of that change, to search more, to look more outside. You know, there's a lot of people that never heard about Mandela Effect or those things, and they started since the thing that's going on around the world. They started to look, to study, and that's a great time for that. It was supposed to be.
That's a gateway. So once you start noticing it's changing, then you can get into making some active quantum jumps, some conscious shifts, and you can decide which timeline do you need to be in, which one, like how good can it get? You call it to you, you work with it actively. I agree.
Yeah.
I think you're absolutely right. Having all this downtime has definitely increased the amount of people who have not only heard of the Mandela Effect, but actually like, oh yeah, there's something here. Speaking of here, it is time for us to get out of here. So we need to go ahead and give final thoughts. We're going to go around the table real quick. And Miss Cynthia, final thoughts.
Well, thank you, first of all, for this excellent show, for everybody that put so much work into it. And, you know, that's Heather behind the scenes, Carla, our beautiful special guest, Chris, for doing just everything that you do to pull it all together. Jerry, thank goodness you showed up. You're the best MC. And Shane, because he's not here, but he's always here in our hearts. So, and of course, most of all, perhaps last but never least, and that's the audience. That's everybody that comes to these, that participates, all the super chat contributions. Thank you for everything you're doing, and we respect and really appreciate you so much. So thank you.
I appreciate that, Miss Cynthia, and I second that. Did all our super chatters, I would like to shout out Mr. C.J. Henderson. Oh, I think he's a Mr. The person C.J. Henderson, let me be clear. And I can see his name right in my Lee Carroll, Lee Carroll. Thank you for these. J.D. Peterson, and Lee Carroll. We appreciate Lewis Carroll. We appreciate your super chats and super stickers, ladies and gentlemen. It is definitely goes a long way to help out this community, and all money gained by our organization goes right back in the community and not to us by any means whatsoever. Christopher Anatra, final thoughts, please, sir.
Yeah, I mean, I also second everything that Cynthia just said, as well as like, sending our love to Shane and his family, for what they're going through right now. Looking forward to the next episode of Open Tables, which will be after all the comet would have gone by and the solar eclipse and blah, blah, blah. So we'll see what timeline we're in there. So that should be an interesting show. And of course, thank you so much, Carla, for making this a great show. Absolutely loved your input, loved all the knowledge and information you brought here. And I think this is a historic show because you are our first international guest, and it was really special. So thank you so much.
I second everything Chris just said. It is so fascinating to me to have a real international guest here, talking about things that we all can relate to, even though it's a completely different country, completely different continent even. We can still all relate to the Mandela effect and all relate to seeing these things that are just totally mind-boggling and baffling and out of this world. Carla, I would also like to extend my thanks for being here tonight with us.
Thank
We
you.
so very sincerely appreciate it. Thank you. It has been so much fun. Do you have any final thoughts on the Mandela effect, on just any of this?
Well, thank you, first of all, again, for you all, for the kindness and sweetness to have me here, the opportunity. I admire all your works. Sorry for my English sometimes, because, it's a bit difficult. But anyway, I just want to thank you for the opportunity. And I hope people keep searching, keep digging, keep looking for, because like you said, Jerry, from different places on this planet, we are connected, somehow. It shows how much we need to be connected, because that movement, that change, just gonna happen as more as we get connected with the source, the power, whatever you want to call it. So I just want to say really thank you for that gift, that opportunity, and I really admire you people for doing that, for waking up people, because you guys, every single your way, you do that amazing job. So I just and thank you for everybody who watched us.
Yeah.
Shout out to our amazing chat. You guys are the real stars of the show, for real, for real. We could not do any of this without any of you guys here. So we sincerely appreciate it. And Carla, I have to agree, it's been fascinating. It's been so much fun. The aspect has been enlightening. The ability to talk to somebody internationally has been totally just amazing. We are all connected at some level, to some degree. I will stand on this till the day I pass. We are all connected. I don't know what that level is, but the Mandela effect has done nothing but increase the ability to show us how connected we are. And on that note, ladies and gentlemen, it is time for us to wrap this up. So on behalf of Shane Robinson, Kimberly Lynn Hansen, shout out to her doing her amazing art and helping us out from beyond over there in Canada. Yeah, you see, you guys thought I made the grave, didn't you? Ha ha. Cynthia Sue Larson, Christopher Anatra, Shane Robinson. On behalf of Carla Cicarino, I am Jerry Hicks, also known as the Dark Wolf, for International Mandela Effect Community. And we thank you for being here, ladies and gentlemen. Together we go. Together we grow. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.